comments that are streaming on YouTube. I think
Uh,
Abhijit.
yeah, he'll screenshot it and send it to Jaishankar sir,
Okay.
and then you can know.
Okay. Cool. Thank you, Anukriti.
No problem, ma'am.
Jeffin has joined.
Hello. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I joined.
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeffin, you're doing the MC or
No, 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 no. Ajay is
you're
doing the MC,
checking the?
sir. I'm
Okay, okay.
introducing the
Ajay is
speaker.
doing the MC, sir.
Yeah, Ajay is here. Ajay has joined.
Uh, 1 second, sir.
I'm not able to see him here.
No,
He
No,
hasn't
sir.
joined yet.
no, no. I'll
He
ask
hasn't
him.
joined
I'll
yet.
call him.
Okay, okay. Ask him to join in. Alan and Ajay are joining together. Okay. Good evening.
I'm a guest. I see you.
We can see you, Alan, your expressions as well. And we have 24 participants already in.
1 second. What, sir? Yes, yes, sir.
Alan, Ajay is with you.
Yes, he's with me only.
Yeah, he's going to host the show today. MC
Uh,
night.
me. Where is Anup? Hello, sir. Are you there?
Hello, voice check. Hello,
Jayashankar,
Arun.
sir. Are you there? Hello.
Hello.
Arun?
Yes, ma'am. We can hear.
Okay, thank you.
Uh, Alan asked Ajay to give the general instructions that we give every day. That people will have to keep their mics mute, and at the end of the session, they got to press that raise the hand icon, and the moderator, Dr. Viyolla, will address them, and the participant, whoever has raised a hand, can ask the question. Also ask him to make this announcement that people who are into YouTube live streaming, the link has been shared through the email. Those people will have to type their name and college. Okay, this is necessary. Okay.
Right, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else, Dr. Viyolla? Dr. Viyolla is a moderator today. Uh,
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, hello. Good going, guys.
Thank you. So at the end, he will just say over to Jeffin, and Jeffin will take care of the introduction to the
Introduction of the
speaker.
speaker. Yes.
And after that, Jeffin will say over to the speaker, and the speaker will directly start, right?
Exactly.
All right, cool.
Yeah. Dr. Putul, Dr. Kavya is joining. Dr. Kavya will be rendering the vote of thanks today.
Yeah. I asked her and she said yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. She has not yet joined, but she must be joining.
I think she's facing some problem getting in. That's a message she has sent. Okay. Yeah, Viyolla.
The internet
Dr.
is
Viyolla.
good. The connection is good today, but sadly I have no power backup. So I'll let you know just in case something crashes.
Sure, do text me WhatsApp.
Yeah, yeah,
I will
sure.
take on. Yeah, thank you. Dr. Putul, if you can connect to Dr. Kavya, she's expecting you to communicate.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll do that.
Hello. Unmuted for ಎಲ್ಲ purposes. Professor. Special. Moolam.
Naradappa sir, we request you to please mute.
Hi, Jay.
Hello, Avinash.
Dr. Arun.
Yeah. I was told he will join in another 5 minutes. Hasn't joined. Soumya Rachel.
Yes, sir. The speaker is traveling somewhere, so he said he'll join in 5 minutes.
I am here, Soumya.
Oh,
Okay.
yes, sir. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening.
Sir, you should be able to see a share screen option.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Avinash. Good evening. Good evening. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir. We can see your screen.
Yeah. I'm done. I'm ready.
Yes, sir.
Ajay. Alan. Yeah, it's sharp 7 o'clock. I think we'll start.
Should I start, sir?
Yeah, I think we'll keep up time because yesterday it was a very interactive and enthusiastic session that went till 9:30. So today, I think we'll start on time, or it's 96 now. Participants who are in.
I think we should start.
We'll start. Vinash.
Yeah, I think we should start. If Dr. Arun is fine to start, because
Okay.
people tend to join in. Yeah.
Yes, I think we'll start. Then. Ajay, go ahead.
So, good evening, everyone. The talk is about to begin. So, there's some guidelines we hope you adhere to. The first and the most important guideline here is that all the mics should be on mute. This is to ensure that the talk proceeds without any distractions. The second is that the participants who are attending this webinar from YouTube and Instagram, they should type their names in the comments their names and the institutions in the comments. This is to enable us to verify their participation. The third guideline is that after the talk, the participants using Microsoft Teams can ask their doubts by using the raise your hand option, and our moderator, Dr. Viyolla, will communicate your names to the speaker during the Q&A session, where you can unmute yourself one by one and ask your questions. And simultaneously, during the Q&A session, those who are streaming this webinar from Instagram and YouTube can type their questions in the comments, and our moderator will communicate your questions. And now I request Jeffin to introduce the speaker. Over to Jeffin. Jeffin, you.
Am I
Thank you.
audible?
Yes. Yeah, over to Jeffen.
Thank you, Ajay. A very good evening to each and everyone present. My name is Justin, and I'm here to introduce the speaker for today, Dr. Aisha Arun. Dr. Aisha Arun, Director of Research and Veterinary Operation, has been working with Wildlife SOS since 2003. As a part of Wildlife SOS team, Dr. Arun has led rescue team and rehabilitated and treated wildlife such as sloth bears, leopards, elephant, tigers, and many more. He was a TEDx MEC 2019 speaker. His hard work and dedication has not only earned him awards like Governor's Award for the Best MVSC Student of Wildlife Science and the Best Emerging Wildlife Veterinarian. Dr. Arun proudly holds the member in IUCN's SSC Beer Specialist Group, BSG, for Sloth Beers lifetime membership with Association of Indian Zoo and Wildlife Veterinarian. For his pioneering work in research and publication, he has been part of over 18 international publications and over 81 national publications. We are so glad and privileged to have you here, sir. Over to you, Dr. Arun. Over to you, sir.
A very warm good evening to all of you. Hope everyone is safe and at home. As he was mentioning, first of all, thanks for a wonderful introduction. Basically, I'm a wildlife vet looking after wild animals and involved in rescue and rehabilitation procedures for the last 16, 17 years. So I'm going to get into the title. Is my screen visible to all of you?
No, sir.
Just a minute. Does it now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I really would like to thank St. Joseph's College Zoology Department and especially Arosha India, Mr. Avinash, for giving me the wonderful opportunity to address in this national webinar on wildlife trafficking and zoonosis. So it's really a pleasure and then privilege for me to hear and then discuss with all of you. And I know that zoonotic disease is not a small topic. So I would always recommend that please be little attentive, and then if there is any queries, then we can always discuss and then let us learn about this zoonotic disease or refresh our knowledge, because I'm sure that all of you must have gone through all these zoonotic diseases in your graduate and undergraduate or postgraduate level. So I'm going to give you some glimpse of this zoonotic disease and with respect to COVID-19 in specific. Okay. So unfortunately, I have to talk about zoonosis and its origin and history. As you all know that zoonosis is derived from a Greek word, and zoom is animal and noson is disease. And zoonosis was coined by Rudolf Virchow, who was defining it for communicable diseases. So diseases and infection which are naturally transmitted between vertebrate animal and humans was coined by World Health Organization in 1959. Some examples are like rabies, avian influenza, Japanese encephalitis, leptospirosis, plague. So I would really wanted to talk to you about emerging zoonosis, because this term is also important, because it's nothing but a zoonosis that is newly recognized or newly evolved or that has occurred previously but shows an increase in incidence or expansion in geographical host or vector range, so which was jointly constituted by WHO, FAO, and OIE in the year 2004. So out of this 1,415 microbial diseases, almost 61% are zoonotic, and within that, 13% species regarded as emerging or re-emerging. For example, swine flu, bovine spongiform encephalitis, Nipah, avian influenza, Hansa virus in USA. Is the screen visible to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Again, the other term that we all have to go through is neglected zoonosis. The vast majority of the zoonosis are, but however, not prioritized by health system at national and international level and are labeled neglected. But they are again a very important zoonosis infection. Examples: bovine tuberculosis and even human tuberculosis, brucellosis, leishmaniasis, cysticercosis, and echinococcus. So here you can very well visualize the pie diagram, which is about human, livestock, and wildlife, the interaction between these three organisms. And as you all know that the disease is primarily between these three. One is host, the other one is disease, is environment. Is my line clear?
Yes.
Can I continue?
Yes, sir, please.
1 minute. We request all the participants to mute their mic so that there is active participation. Yes, sir. Please, sir. Proceed, sir.
Not an issue. So these three components we should really understand. One is host, the other one is environment, the other one is pathogen. So when we talk about all these three, there will be a very good relation between the wildlife and the zoonosis, because the wildlife host species richness is a significant predictor of the emergence of zoonotic EID. EID is nothing but emerging infectious disease with a wildlife origin, with no role for human population growth, latitude, and rainfall. On the other side, we have the same zoonotic EIDs from non-wildlife host is predicted by human population density, human population growth, latitude, and not by wildlife host species richness. So these are very important points that we should keep it in mind when we are talking about wildlife and zoonosis. Slide stuck. Yeah. Here I would like to share some of the zoonotic diseases contribution over years. Centuries from 1940 till 2000. You can very well see the unspecified zoonoses are very little, and zoonotic with respect to non-wildlife is red in color, and you can see the wildlife contributed zoonotics are really more. We can very well say that the contribution of wildlife to the zoonotic is really more as per this publication of Jones et al. In 2008. And anyway, we will have to go through all this classification of zoonosis. As you all know, zoonosis is classified based on several parameters or several factors. So the first one is according to the etiological agent, which is nothing but bacterial zoonosis, viral zoonosis, rickettsial, protozoal, helminthic, fungal, and ectoparasites. And you can see multiple examples on each etiological agents. Anyway, I'll come into those separately. And based on the reservoir host, the zoonosis is classified into three major categories. One is anthropozoonosis, which is nothing but the disease from animals to lower vertebrate animals to people. Example: brucellosis, arboviral infection, leptospirosis, Q fever. And zooanthroponosis is from man to lower vertebrate animals. Those are like streptococci, staphylococci, diphtheria, enterobacteriaceae, human tuberculosis in cattle and parrots. And amphizoonosis is nothing but either direction it will be passing from lower vertebrate to human or human to lower vertebrate. And according to the mode of transmission, the classification of zoonosis is 4 different types. Direct zoonosis is by direct contact. So an infected vertebrate host and examples are anthrax, brucellosis, leptospirosis, and toxoplasmosis. And cyclozoonosis, and our COVID-19 is coming under direct zoonosis. So it can spread through direct contact or by any fomites. So the cyclozoonosis require more than one vertebrate host, but no invertebrate host for the completion of the life cycle of the agent. So, for example, echinococcosis and tiniosis, these are all parasitic zoonosis. And metazoonosis is nothing but transmitted biologically by invertebrate vector. And an important factor here is it always needs an extrinsic incubation period before transmission, which is otherwise known as pre-patent time. So only then it can affect another vertebrate host. Example, plague, schistosomiasis, arboviral infection, and leishmaniasis. And the saprozoonosis always require a vertebrate host and a non-animal developmental site like soil, plant material, pigeon droppings, etc. For development of this infectious agent. Example, aspergillosis, coccidiosis. So this is very important because the factors influencing the emergence of zoonotic disease is really a key factor to understand about the zoonotic diseases. So it's based on the ecological changes in the environment and agricultural operations. For example, leptospirosis, plague, Rift Valley fever, KFD are all based on environmental and agricultural operation, and increased movement or traveling by people. Example, amoebiosis, giardiosis, colibacillosis, etc. And handling of animal byproducts and waste. So a very good example is anthrax and chlamydiosis, salmonellosis, and bird flu, etc. And the other influencing factor is increase in density of animal population, dermatophytosis, and tuberculosis. Increased congregation of any animal population which are already carrying the zoonotic problem are very potential factor influencing the zoonotic disease. And pathogen changes like genetic shift or drift. I mean, when the infective material from the body makes multiple copies, sometimes it creates copying error in simpler sense. So that is otherwise known as genetic shift or drift. So influenza, E. coli, and Staphylococcus are coming under this pathogen changes. So the transmission type, again, it's a critical part to understand. The transmission type is really an important area to understand about the zoonotic disease, and it has got 5 different stages, stage 1 to 5, and stage 1 is agent only in animal. So there won't be any transmission to human being. You can just concentrate on the left side of the slide, on the right extreme side of the slide. So stage 2, it's a primary infection. From animal, it goes to another human being or to an animal. So that is only from animal. So that is stage 2. And stage 3 is limited outbreak. It's only from animal, a few cycle of humans. You can see in the picture, a monkey to human and human to another human might be possible. It's not definite. So it sometimes gets contained in few cycles within the species. And the 4th stage is long outbreak because it has got many cycles from animal or in human. So animal to people, people to people, people to people. So it goes into many cycles. So that is the transmission to human. And stage 5 is exclusive human agent. So it's only from human to human. So that is why this transmission type is also very important for us to understand the zoonosis. And hotspots of zoonotic diseases. So as we all know that emerging infectious disease events are dominated by zoonosis, and almost 60%, I mean 60.3% is very dominated by zoonosis among all the emerging infectious diseases. And the majority of these, 71.8% out of 60.3, originate in wildlife. And apart from this, these emerging disease hotspots are primarily from or concentrated in lower latitude developing countries. You can very well appreciate that in the map. Wherever it was dark red in color and the minor yellows are really the lower latitude developing countries, and they are very prone and rich in hotspots of these zoonotic diseases. So we always blame wildlife, or many of our known direct zoonoses are from wildlife origin. That too, primarily from bats and few other intermediate hosts. But still, we should always keep Charles Darwin's theory that the pathogens evolves like species. So there is always a 50-50% chance that even the microbes or the pathogens evolve and taken over the mankind and then start giving a zoonotic infection. These are some of the top zoonotic outbreaks in India. As you all aware, probably pneumonic plague in Surat was recorded in 1994, and cholera outbreak in 2001 in Odisha. Almost 33 people died. And in 2006, dengue outbreak was become a very major issue, and 3,600 plus cases were recorded, and 50 people have died. And in bird flu in West Bengal in the year 2008 was also created a major havoc. And in 2009, swine flu, almost 503 deaths all over India. And in 2005, again, the same the swine flu outbreak happened. In 2018, deaths were recorded. And in 2018, Nipah virus outbreak in Kerala, almost 17 people have died. So coming to the risk factors for zoonotic disease emergence is primarily classified into three major headings of social, ecological, and microbial. So in social, these are very important factors or examples that human behavior, even the self-hygiene and then our cultural activities, whatever it is, it's all based on human behavior. And mobility, movement between the same town or outside the town, between district or between state or between the country. So that's a mobility and demography and public health measures. So whatever the public health measures we have taken, it all comes under social. And in ecological, animal contacts, agricultural practices, fisheries, environmental pollution, and global warming are primarily considered under ecological risk factor. And the last one is the microbial, as I already said, mutation and recombination or reassortments or the microbial risk factors for zoonotic disease emergence. So this was an interesting information. I was actually going through Ms. Mindy Sampson's talk in Zoonosis and Globalization. And there was a global flight map was made on a particular day, on a Saturday. A random day was chosen, and at 8:30 a.m. the statistics were established, and then they found 10,000 flights a day was recorded, and almost 36.8 million flights occurred in 2017. Can you imagine that in a day, if 10,000 flights are flying over, and then 36.8 million flights in a year, you don't need to expect any disease from any corner of the globe. So it happens like this because we have commute between countries, and the air traffic control is amazing. I mean, I don't know how the engineers are able to make sure that these traffic is maintained without troubling the flights in between, and able to manage takeoff and landing, all those things. But 38.8 million flight occurred in 1 year is a really mind-blowing fact. So we have to be very, very proactive that how are we going to deal with this kind of pandemic. So these are some of the very reputed and known zoonotic disease research organizations, starting from World Health Organization, Public Health Foundation of India, ICAR, ICMR, Center for Disease Control and Prevention, Wildlife Institute of India, OIE, National Institute of Communicable Disease. So these are some of the few to name. So I'm going to get into coronaviruses directly before I deal with other zoonotic diseases, because I feel because of the time constraint, I should definitely interact more about coronavirus than the other zoonosis. As you all know, coronavirus, COV, are a large family of viruses that causes illness ranging from a common cold and a disease like severe acute respiratory syndrome. SARS-CoV was recognized in November 2002, again in China, and MERS is Middle East Respiratory Syndrome in 2012 in Saudi Arabia. So this novel coronavirus of zoonotic origin means this disease spread by by animal to human. Outbreaks in healthcare workers indicate human-to-human transmission was also possible, and it was very well evident in this COVID-19 case. So the name was coined by WHO on 11th March, and the short form of COVID stands for CO is corona, and VI is virus, and D is a disease that everyone aware of it. So it's a new strain and has not been previously identified in humans. The first person infected in Wuhan, Hubei in China on 17th November 2009, and has gone to affect over 425,000 people in over 150 countries around the globe, causing more than 18,000 deaths. So that was a very old recent statistics later. The outbreak was declared a public health emergency of international concern on 30th Jan 2020, and it was declared as pandemic on 11th March 2020. And in India, the first patient found in Kerala on 30th Jan 2020, and is affected had a travel history from Wuhan, China. He was a medical student from China, Wuhan especially. So this virus can cause pneumonia-like symptom, and I will talk to you about the symptoms in upcoming slides, but it leads to a lot of breathing difficulties and can cause organ failure and eventually mortality. And as you all know, antibiotics are specific to bacteria. No virus can be killed by an antibiotic. So antibiotic is of no use. And the other important structural protein, this is spike glycoprotein, is a very creative architecture, and it is a key player of viral entry into the host, as well as producing vaccine design by using this blueprint. Causes of COVID-19. So this zoonotic infection first developed in animal before developing in humans. For the virus to pass from animal to human, a person has to come into close contact with an animal that carries the infection. So this is how we thought the infection might have been come from the animal. But this was very early stage. Once a virus develops in people, coronavirus can transmit it from person to person through respiratory droplets, which is nothing but a wet stuff that moves through the air when you cough or sneeze or talk. So the viral material hangs out in these droplets and can breathe into the respiratory tract, where the virus can then lead to an infection. In 2019, coronavirus hasn't been definitely linked to a specific animal, but the researchers believe that it may have been passed from bats to another animal, either snakes or pangolin, and then transmitted to human, because it is must that these lower vertebrates will definitely have an intermediate host to transmit the disease to humans. So the transmission likely occurred in the open food market, which is wet market in Wuhan, China. These are major symptoms. It might appear between 2 to 14 days after exposure. Cough, fever, headache, loss of taste or smell, repeated shaking with chills, sore throat, shortness of breath, and muscle pain. So how are coronavirus diagnosed? As we all know that The diagnosis similarly to other conditions by any viral infections using blood or saliva or tissue sample. But in most tests use a biotechnological or molecular diagnosis. It's very easy to diagnose the disease. And there are multiple tests available, PCR based, nothing but antibody based or antigen based test or serology and thermal detectors. As I already said, prophylaxis and treatment is nothing as on now. So currently no medications and no cure. Antibiotics, as I said, is not effective against viral. And researchers are still testing a variety of possible treatments to get away with COVID-19. But FDA granted permission for some medications used for some other diseases, and if the condition is very severe, if there is no other options, we can go for this two primary drugs called the two anti-malarial drugs, hydrochloroquine and chloroquine, and the antiviral drug remdesivir and combination of several other antiviral diseases. Because this is, if you're talking about this anti-malarial drug, it is not a direct effect of this hydrochloroquine against this virus. It's a kind of an additional effect. So that is why, since we don't have any specific drug for this, so FDA approved permission to use any of these anti-malarial or antiviral drugs if the infection is very severe. Not in all cases. Prevalence, this is today's statistics, continuing its spread across the world with more than 73.818 lakh confirmed cases in 188 countries, and more than 4,13,648 people have lost their lives. This is again today's statistics. So these are some of the mode of transmission. As we all know, sneezing or coughing by infected person, the droplets will be passed on to your any of the body parts, and then when you touch or touch any surfaces, you will get the virus. This is how we contract the diseases. And if it is not by direct contact, the other version is touching any fomites. If the droplets are spilled over any other inanimate objects or handles or doors, and knobs, whatever it is, so that infected droplets get onto your hand, and then again the virus gets transferred into your respiratory system. So then how to prevent this COVID-19? So this is basically an information provided by WHO, and it's very easy that to understand the basic psychosocial skills, a guide for COVID-19 respondents. So it's actually protecting yourself, and in a very methodical way. Wash your hands frequently, maintain social distancing, avoid touching eyes and nose, mouth frequently, practice respiratory hygiene. If you have fever, cough, and difficulty in breathing, seek medical care early. Stay informed and follow advice given by your healthcare provider. So that's very easy by using the government created an app called Arun. So I would strongly recommend that please download this app and then be very active and then attentive to this app, and then you can easily follow the problems around you, and then they will be also monitoring you, and that is what the government is trying to do and achieve. So we will all have to extend our cooperation for this pandemic. Your lifeline says wash your hands. So these are some of the don'ts, like don't use other ways of covering your face, like ladies used to use their pallu, the sari, or chani, or the gamcha to cover their face. So this is not the way to do the masking procedure. So don't touch your eyes, nose, as I already mentioned. So don't touch the surfaces like doorknobs, doorbells, elevator buttons, handrails, support handles, chair back surface, ATM, mobiles, jeep handles. So try to avoid all these inanimate objects, or always sanitize your hands. Spit in open. Don't spit in open. Always use a spit on or wash basin for spitting. Don't hold events where people have to gather, even it is a corner meeting with 3 or 4 friends, or an evening chat, or on a chow power. So please never create any gatherings. So don't go to a crowded place like markets, shopping, melas, parties, malls, whatever it is, and don't use public transport as much as possible. And these are some of the high-risk groups, like as you all know that elderly people more than 60 years, or very tiny infants are at high risk, and people with decreased immunity, and people with comorbidities such as diabetes, hypertension, kidney diseases. So all this act as a risk factor to contract the disease. And there is a major difference between the isolation and quarantine. I just wanted to throw some light on it. So isolation is if you are sick, and isolation period is at least 7 days. So separate sick people with a contagious disease from people who are not at risk, who are not sick. And you must stay away from others from at least 7 days after your symptoms have gone away. So on the other hand, quarantine is if you are exposed. So separates people from people and restrict their movement if they were exposed to a contagious disease to see if they become sick. For people who are not sick, but they have been exposed in close contact with someone who is sick, you must stay away from others for 14 days and see if you get sick. And there is one other funny fact I was actually observing, that in March, when there was very less corona, the fear factor was so much. So it actually worked a lot. And in June, I could see this change in behavior of people, that corona is really on another side or upper side, and people have lost their fear. People are going everywhere, and some of them, when they are seeing some officials or authorities, only they are putting the mask as if they are actually protecting the public or police people. So they won't understand the impact of the mask and then the personal hygiene. So I would really insist, all of you and your friends and families, insist, and then please make them aware that what kind of pandemic we are dealing with. So it's really a tough time for everyone, but still there are ways and means to get away with it, but we can't take it granted. So please be aware of it. And there are a lot of myth busters. I don't need to go into individuals, but to just tell you a few: cold weather and snow cannot kill the new coronavirus. And the new coronavirus cannot be transmitted through mosquito bites. Hand dryer is effective in killing the new coronavirus. So there is no evidence that companion animals or pets such as dogs or cats can transmit the coronavirus. Ultraviolet light should not be used for sterilization and can cause skin irritation. So these are all the myths that people are thinking that these all will get away, but these are all the facts. So what was given here is a fact. So this is the myth buster. And this was an interesting article I was recently going through, and this is a very interesting and publication done by US, I mean University of California, San Diego, San Francisco, and if you anybody, I mean if you are interested in going through the picture, I am happy to share the PDF form. But still, if you have the title of the paper, then you can very well download it from Google. So according to the paper and the annexure provided in this paper, I'll give you the glimpse. The very high risk factors are with human chimpanzees and rhesus macaque, and the high risk of contracting the disease is in reindeer and dolphin. And medium risk animals are leopard, tiger and cheetah, hamster, cattle, water buffalo, goat, sheep and cat. The low risk animals are especially bears, rhinoceros, elephant, flying fox, panda, camel, donkey, horse, dog and pig. And very low risk animals are categorized into palm civet, fruit bats and rats, guinea pig and mouse. So now I'm getting into a major portion of the other zoonotic diseases in the globe. Rabies, as you all know, it's a highly fatal viral disease. In India, rabies account to about 20,000 deaths annually. Most animal bites in India, 91.5% are by dog, or which are about 60% are strays, and 40% So rabies is present throughout the country, except in islands like Andaman, Nicobar, so all those places. And incubation period is between 3 to 8 weeks, and vaccinations are very much available for controlling of rabies. And the World Rabies Day was celebrated in September 28. Tuberculosis is in human. The most commonly caused by Mycobacterium tuberculosis complex, a slow-growing waxy rod-shaped bacterium transmitted primarily via the air when an infected individual coughs or sneezes. It is estimated that 1/3 of the world is infected with this agent, which causes approximately 2 million deaths every year. Though most infections are asymptomatic, infection is becoming increasingly deadly due to both the spread of a highly antibiotic resistant strains like XTBs and HDR. So these are all like drug resistant tuberculosis, and they're increasing in numbers with both HIV and TB has become a major concern. The other zoonotic disease is brucellosis. It's also called Banks disease, Crimean fever. There are multiple names for it: Mediterranean fever, rock fever, undulin fever. So it's caused by Bacillus militancis, Brucella militancis, or Brucella abortus, and Brucella suis, and Brucella canis. So it depends on the species it affects, and most human infections are caused by Brucella militancis in India. It's highly contagious zoonosis caused by ingestion of unsterilized or unpasteurized milk and the meat of infected animal or close contact with secretions. So clinical findings are acute brucellosis, prolonged bacteremia, irregular fever, chills, muscular articular pain, drenching sweats, exhaustion, anorexia. So I don't want to deal with the clinical findings here. And chronic brucellosis have sweating, lassitude, joint pains with minimal or no fever. Plague is another deadly infectious disease that is caused by Enterobacteria Yersinia pestis, an ancient disease, and has caused 3 pandemics in 6th century. In India, fatal outbreak in 1994 happened in Maharashtra, and in 2002 it happened in Simla. Transmitted by black rat, Rattus rattus, and oriental rat flea. Transmission by droplet contact again, direct physical contact by soil contamination, airborne transmission, fecal oral transmission, etc. Anthrax is another bacterial disease caused by Bacillus anthracis, oldest recorded disease of animals. Human acquired infection from cattle, sheep, goat, horses, and swine. Anthrax is zoonotic in southern India, but it is less frequent in northern states of India. Anthrax in sheep is prevalent in sheep in Andhra, Tamil Nadu border, causing cutaneous or meningoencephalitic human infections with a high mortality rate. Outbreaks of anthrax is a ever continuing process. In Mysore, it happened in 1999, Odisha 2004 and 5, in West Bengal 2000. So it happens routinely, but at least it is known as zoonotic in southern India. And based on the route of infection, there are 3 clinical types are established. One is cutaneous anthrax, which you can see on the picture, and on the other side, it's a pulmonary anthrax, occurs due to inhalation. And the intestinal form is, if your improperly cooked meat is consumed, then you will have a violent enteritis with bloody diarrhea. So that's an intestinal form of anthrax. Leptospirosis is an emerging global public health problem caused by Leptospira interrogens, naturally seen in rodents, endemic in Andaman Island and southern states of India, particularly Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Gujarat, Karnataka, and Maharashtra. Rodents and domestic and wild animals form the reservoir of infection. They will never show any symptoms. So they are otherwise known as reservoir host, and they will never establish any symptoms. So it's a kind of quiet host, and they reserve the pathogen. So domestic animals such as cattle, dog, and pig may act as temporary carrier, and rodents are permanent carriers. And the other important zoonosis is rickettsial infections. They cause irreversible damage to the human host associated with high morbidity and mortality. Mortality rate can be as high as 20 to 50%. prevalent in Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Maharashtra, Uttaranchal, Assam, Kerala and Tamil Nadu. The zoonotic disease considered important in India are epidemic typhus, murine typhus, scrub typhus, and these causative agents are different kinds of ticks. So this KFD is Casinor forest disease, is a viral hemorrhagic fever first reported in Karnataka in 1957. In the wild, the virus resides in the reservoir host like mice, porcupine, and shrews. Again, they act as a reservoir host. Monkeys are considered as amplifying host. Ticks are vector. So these ticks carry this infection when it was getting amplified in monkeys. And at one point of time, they found a series of monkeys' mortality, and that is when the disease was investigated and identified. And annually, an average of 500 cases are reported in human beings, and 3 to 10% is the mortality rate. Malaria. So this is a recently discovered the zoonotic potential of Plasmodium species. There are more, 4 major Plasmodium species are causing human malaria, and it is, as we all know, that transmits between human by mosquitoes, a species called Anopheles. The recent discovery of Plasmodium knowlesi typically infect forest macaque, and the disease can be transmitted to human. And it is easy to diagnose with a blood smear, and it is very easily visible. Even on the picture, you can see the RBC with the dark stain particles or Plasmodium species. So the other group of viral diseases are called arboviral diseases, which includes Japanese encephalitis. It's a virus transmitted disease through zoonotic cycle between mosquitoes, pigs, and water birds, keeping the culex as vector. And dengue virus is again transmitted by Aedes aegypti during day, especially early morning and in the evening. And globally, approximately 2.5 billion people live in the dengue risk regions, with about 100 million new cases each year. So India accounts for nearly 1/3 of all dengue cases reported globally. And the other major one is chikungunya, transmitted by a bite of Aedes aegypti again. In 2006, more than 1.3 million people were affected by chikungunya virus, which prevailed across 150 districts of 8 states in India. So about Japanese encephalitis, it's caused by Japanese encephalitis virus. JE was first recorded in Vellore and Pondicherry in mid-1950s, transmitted through zoonotic cycle between mosquito, pigs, and water birds, as we already saw. And vector is Culex mosquito, and its incubation period varies between 6 to 16 days, and the clinical finding of fever, rigors, headache, and vomiting. And encephalitis syndrome, like difficulty to speak, and ocular palsies, hemiplegia, quadriplegia, tremors, altered sensorium, convulsions, and coma. Chikungunya fever is caused by chikungunya virus and transmitted by the bite of Aedes aegypti. The clinical findings are fever, chills, anorexia, conjunctivitis, morbilliform rash or shrunken limbs, coffee-colored vomitus, epistaxis, and petechial hemorrhages. Prominent symptoms in adults is orthopathy, pain, swelling, stiffness of the metacarpophalangeal joint tissue, especially the wrist and the elbow, shoulder, knee, ankle, and metatarsal joints. Diagnosis is through serum in the first 3 to 4 days with PCR or any other biotechnological or molecular technique, and treatment is through symptomatic, and mosquito control measures are the only prevention because there is no vaccine available for chikungunya. Am I audible to all? Hello?
Yes, sir, audible.
Yeah. Thank you. So the other important zoonosis is leishmaniasis. It's a complex disease caused by a protozoan caused leishmania, Donawani, and in India endemic in Bihar, Jharkhand, West Bengal, and UP. Manifest in two forms, cutaneous and visceral. I'll show you some pictures in the next slide. And transmitted by the bite of female phlebotom sandfly. The clinical findings are fever, splenomegaly, swelling of spleen and liver is hepatomegaly, anemia, weight loss, and darkening of skin of the face, hands. So the man with a lot of bulging on their on his head is nothing but lymphadenopathy plus darkening of skin with a lot of lesions on the cutaneous tissue. And post-Kalas or dermal leishmaniasis is the typical lesion developed even consisting of multiple nodular infiltration of the skin, and usually there won't be any ulceration documented in these post-Kalas or dermal leishmaniasis. And as I said, there are two different forms. One is cutaneous leishmaniasis, is painful ulcers in the part of the body exposed to sandfly bites, legs, arms, or face. And bone marrow and spleen tissues are best aspiration samples for diagnosis. Staining methods are also used, and classical blood agar triple N medium consists of 0.6% NaCl added to a simple blood agar slope, the most currently used media. And visceral leishmaniasis is diagnosed through PCR assay, is almost 100% sensitive using peripheral blood. Ultra-sensitive PCR assay for visceral leishmaniasis is also a very good biotechnological tool. Other serological tests like IFAT, immunoenzymatic techniques, and IAH and immune blots are also used, and easy test or direct agglutination test, RK39 immunochromatography, dipstick, latex particle agglutination, dot ELISA, and fast ELISA are very commonly used diagnostic test for visceral leishmaniasis. The other one is all parasitic, Tinea and cysticercosis, again caused by two parasites, Tinea saginata, if we are actually consuming undercooked or poorly cooked beef, and Tinea solium is the host animal of pig, and when the undercooked or poorly cooked pork is consumed, then the Tinea solium get transmitted to through the food to human being. And this Tinea solium is endemic in India, widely reported, and Tinea saginata, the beef-based parasite was moderately reported. And if the infected meat was ingested, and even the water and vegetable contaminated with the ova or egg of these parasites will also the reason for the transmission of the disease. And cysticercosis refers to tissue infection after exposure to egg of Tinea solium and the pork tapeworm. Toxoplasmosis, again, caused by a parasite called Toxoplasma gondii, and it is primarily the definitive host of cat, our domestic cat, and transmitted by infection by ingestion of the tissue cyst present in the raw or undercooked beef, lamb or pork, and ingestion of oocyst from soil, water, milk, or vegetable. Toxoplasmosis present worldwide with seropositivity ranging from less than 10% to over 90%. Seroprevalence in India is about 22% approximately. It can be transmitted congenitally in pregnant mothers. So the pregnant ladies have to be very careful with their pet cats. And another form is acute toxoplasmosis, the swollen lymph node. You can see on the picture the retina is completely ruined because it affects the retina, and it necrotizes the tissue, and it creates necrotizing retinochondroiditis. And skin lesions, rosacea and erythema, multiform like eruptions and urticaria, and maculopapular lesions you can see on the baby's body all over. Yeah, with this, I am going to conclude my presentation with a short summary of there are almost 70 described zoonotic diseases in the world. It continues more than 60% of all, it constitutes more than 60% of all the infectious disease affecting humans. The major 13 zoonotic disease alone kills 2.2 million people in a year. 3 out of 4 emerging infections coming from animal. There are multiple and complex set of challenges to zoonotic disease control in India. And public awareness is also very important. Ways to prevent zoonotic disease from CDC webpage was personal hygiene and self-discipline. Keep your hands clean and prevent bites from mosquitoes, ticks and fleas. Love your pet and beware of zoonotic diseases. Handle food and water safely. Avoid bite and scratch from animals. Existing public health systems and newer framework are opportunities to further the agenda of zoonotic disease prevention and control. Establishing partnership between academic and implementing agencies, also a major factor that we can easily get away with this kind of pandemic and get a better understanding about this pandemic. So with this, I would like to refer some of the articles which I have taken help from, and acknowledging all these people and a lot of web pages. And I would like to thank even Arosha India for giving me this opportunity, and thanks to the whole autonomous St. Joseph's College and Department of Zoology for extending all their cooperation and very disciplined way of listening the lecture. Thanks again.
Thank you very much, sir, for that very informative talk. The house is now open for discussion. Kindly click on the raise hand symbol so that we can be able to surface your questions to the speaker.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Shall I ask a question?
Yes.
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yeah, ma'am. Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah. Sir, I'm Kiran Pinagund. I had. What is the is there any relation between zoonosis and blood groups or races of human?
No, there was no proven record of the blood group and zoonosis, ma'am.
And
there was no published.
Am I ask another question?
Yes, ma'am,
yes.
please.
What is about this unsymptomized human? How can we? I mean, if they are the actors, passing the diseases to other healthy person, then how it will be controlled, isn't it?
That's a big challenge in our COVID-19 situation, ma'am, because as I already said, isolation and quarantine is the only answer for all these problems, because as long as we have our own self-discipline for maintaining the hygiene and making use of all these gadgets or the gears to avoid contacting or people. So according to my understanding, except your own family members, until or unless if they are going out, you should always treat everyone as a non-symptomatic carrier. Only then we will achieve eradicating this pandemic. Otherwise, it is very difficult. You never know, and you can't follow everybody's travel stories and then their mobility. So you're right that we have no clue about the non-symptomatic carriers. Now, you may also be a non-symptomatic carrier. I may also be a non-symptomatic carrier. We never show the disease, and sometimes we never even show the disease forever, because, as I said, if your immunity goes down, then you are prone to establish the disease in your body. Otherwise, there is some other term is popularly spoken about as herd immunity. It's nothing but if you get minimally exposed or adequately exposed. We can't even quantify that. If it is 5 grams of virus, 10 grams of virus, pardon me for my statements, but if your exposure is adequate for your body with your adequate immunity, and if you don't have any other morbidities like, as I already said, hypertension or diabetes or HIV or any other heart disease or kidney diseases, then definitely your body will get over the problem and then you will naturally produce immunity. So I don't think I have answered your question, but according to my understanding, we can't figure out the asymptomatic or a non-symptomatic individuals, especially in COVID-19 cases. So that's a big challenge we are facing. That is why this Arogya app will also be a very useful tool, that if you can just start making the entries and then make sure that we are following our own mobility patterns and where are we traveling and whom and all we are meeting. So it's very important. That is why a simple word of self-discipline in terms of maintaining relation, hygiene, and using the protective gears are very, very important. Am I audible?
Am I ask another question, sir? Yeah. Are we considered these pathogens are okay? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Louder.
Yeah. Are we considered these zoonosis pathogens that are created or evolved only in wild environment? Maybe it is looking like a silly question.
No, ma'am. Not at all. Not at all. But I mean, if I understood your question correctly, you want to know all these zoonotics are from animal origin or not, right?
No, sir. But they are evolved from wild environment. Because all of these viral members are coming from wild environment.
Yeah.
Are they created there?
I mean, I don't think so, ma'am, because many diseases have got a long history. So, I mean, obviously, we are also barbarians at one point of time. So, it might be true, but many a times these diseases were focused or even downstreamed while identifying and diagnosing.
Voice breakage.
Hello?
Hello? Arun sir, voice breakage.
Madam, I think there is some glitch with the connection. We will get back.
Problem from my side?
No, sir, you're audible now. You can continue. Check. Arun sir, can you hear me? Check. Check. Can you hear me, sir?
Dr. Viyolla, we'll try to call and connect to Dr. Arun.
Yes, sir.
Get back in a while. We'll get back in a while. I'll try to reach him.
Yes, sure.
Viyolla.
Yes, sir.
Viyolla, Kumar here.
Yes, sir.
After the participants ask the question, ask them to mute their mics. Otherwise, there will be overlapping of sound.
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Yes. May I know where exactly I stopped? What was the question before?
Sir, Madam was asking about the diseases being intaken from the wild or not.
All right. Yeah. So I was trying to say that it was obviously many diseases were actually studied and then got into the bottom of the problem, and when they diagnosed it, many of them were evolved from wild environment. So, which is very obvious because we never carry pathogens when we born. So that's the main school of thought. And the other side, even in this particular case of COVID-19, they have studied the genetic breakup, or they sequenced the entire virus which has happened in Wuhan, and then they have actually tested or cross-matched with the Indian pathogen, but it was matching 99%. So when it keep mutating, and if they are evolving from one sequence to another sequence, that means mutation of any kind, you will never know or find the origin of the problem. So it was, as on now, considered or even believed that many of these pathogens are from wild origin.
Yes, sir. Thank you. We have a question from the YouTube live chat. Miss Varsha Singh asks, sir, do you agree about the spread of pandemic COVID-19 due to consumption of animal meat?
I don't agree fully because there are many meat eaters. I mean, if you consider the percentage of meat eaters, there are many. But as I said, it might have originated from the wet market of Wuhan. But in our case, in India, when you talk about in India, is it because of the meat consumption? I won't agree fully because it's all man-to-man transmission happens. So in that case, no vegetarian should get the disease. So I partially agree with your statement. I don't know whether it is convincing to you or not.
Definitely convincing, sir. Thank you. There's another question from Ms. Deepika Singh. She asks that if the current scenarios of pollution is making us more susceptible to the disease by decreasing our immunity.
Yes, absolutely. All are man-made idiotic stuffs, whether it is a misuse of plastic or pollution, and even though there are steps available to go on to your third floor of your apartment, still using elevator, or when you go to the mall, you look for an elevator or a escalator, definitely increases the pollution or decrease or use of fossil fuel creates a lot of issues. And you must have very well witnessed in this time that many rare animals were started roaming and then crossing the road, and people have sighted a lot of animals in their localities just because of less pollution. So there is no doubt in it that as long as we respect the natural resources, we will have to face this problem. It is not only pollution, so many other things, including our exploitation of the resources and not bothered about segregation of waste and overwhelming throwing of wastage, and many a times tying the pack of waste and throwing to the next compound, thinking that my house is clean. So all these concepts put together will bring our immunity very, very bad. Because as you know that a lot of landfill in tons a day, I mean in 10,000 tons a day in major cities, and ocean pollution, plastic usage, all spoils the topsoil, and that definitely affects the plant life on the planet, and then that eventually comes back to us only. We always think the planet is only for us. That's a major problem.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. The next question is from Dr. M.V. Balasubramaniam.
Good evening, sir.
Hello.
Yes, audible.
Arun sir, are you with us?
Yes.
Yes, the next question is from Dr. M.V. Balasubramaniam. He asks if zoonosis is temperature dependent.
No. So one of the mythbuster also, I have mentioned that cold climate or hot sun is going to kill the corona and then I can roam around everywhere. So zoonosis is nowhere related with temperature.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Anybody in the Microsoft Teams group wanting to ask a question, please raise your hand so that I can direct you to the speaker.
Yeah, ma'am. Please, Shikhar Kaushik this side.
Yes, please.
Good evening, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Yes.
So I have two questions. My first question is that we know the tribal communities are way far in connection from modern human civilization, and even a small fragment of common cold can cause a devastating damage to that particular population. So, as field workers and forest officers, what preventive measures on individual level we should take so as to prevent the transmission of diseases from humans to that particular tribal community?
Any zoonotic stuff. I mean, as I said, some of the zoonoses like KFDs are actually originated from ticks when they infect the monkeys. So it's all depends on the different kinds of zoonosis. So that is why there is not a single solution. It's like conflict mitigation only. There is no single solution for controlling your conflict. So it depends on the disease, it depends on the mode of transmission, it depends on the community and their level of interaction. So it's a complex situation, man. So I don't have a definite answer for you, but as long as we keep distance, something like some of these pandemics or air or even droplet or sometimes fomite transmitted diseases. So you should avoid contacting them and you should avoid them coming outside their original habitat. So they will be kind of quarantined within their environment and there won't be any external influence for them to get the disease. So I don't think it's a difficult situation as long as the people from the forest department or anybody, any other non-governmental organization staff working with the tribal or even the protected area has to maintain their own self-discipline.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, sir. I have one more question, please.
Yes, please, sir.
Sir, as we know that the buffer zone in today's time is decreasing because of increasing human population settlement.
Right.
So, what preventive measures we should take, like if we get back from forest as a research worker or field worker? So, what measures we should take that to restrain the contamination of particular disease by carrying it from forest to the human settlement or particular cities?
Yeah, it's a brilliant question, but only thing is as long as we are policy makers, I don't think we will get a convincing answer for this question because as we all know that when we are talking about some developmental issues and many people, even in Bannerghatta Road, because I live in Bannerghatta, so many companies beyond sometimes in Jigini or in Gotigare, they won't get the permit because they are close to Bannerghatta National Park. But when you are talking about reducing the buffer, I don't know where from our ideas changes. Not getting the permission to run their factory in Jigini because they are close to Bannerghatta National Park is one theory. On the other side, we will be strengthening the buffer area of the national park. So I don't see any, sense into it. So as you rightly pointed out, it's all as a researcher, try to avoid getting into the buffer area because research primarily pointed buffer are outside buffer area only, the intrinsic side. I mean, just outside the buffer, there is a zone, so you can very well restrict your activities and try to educate people that the core and buffer areas are really important because the core area has got a lot of endemic plants and animals, and when we're talking about buffer, that will have a lot of human settlement of tribes and other local communities. So we should retain those stuff. So that is the main reason the government or even UNESCO coined a word called biosphere reserves. So as long as we understand the classification of the forest or even the importance of the ecosystem, it definitely makes a lot of difference to the buffer zone. So we should restrict our expectations of development. So only then we can prevent such kind of strengthening of buffer zones.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
The next question is from Dr. Putul Banerjee from St. Joseph's College. Ma'am, you can unmute and ask.
Thanks, Viyolla. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Thank you, sir, for a very, very nice and covering almost all aspects of zoonosis. Question is, when you consider the different like virus and bacteria, and considering that virus has to enter the cell to cause the infection, and all bacteria does not require to enter cell, what do you think is the relative chances of bacteria and virus jumping species from animals to humans? Or do you see it in statistics?
Sorry, ma'am, can you repeat the last sentence?
Statistically, do you see any difference in the propensity of a bacteria and a virus jump animal species to human species?
I don't have a data, even a research publication for this, but in my understanding, based on all the zoonotic disease activities, because invariably many zoonoses are animal involved, and being a vet, we will always study about the emerging and re-emerging and then neglected zoonosis. As you have pointed out, there are a lot of viral pathogens are in the environment, but almost 80 to 90% of them are commensals. I mean, they easily get destroyed because they need the living being to sustain. And most of the time, they are getting mutated, or sometimes that mutation will only make them not to survive for a long time. So it's a kind of self-containment by nature that many viruses are not actually become zoonotic. So I feel when compared to virus and bacteria, there are several zoonoses present in human host. When you're talking about animal to human or environment to human, through vector or intermediate host. But I feel the statistic for virus is really low. But even if it is 1 or 2, they end up zoonotic. So that's why adequate respect to viral diseases. But in terms of numbers, I always vote for vaccine.
Right, sir. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir. The next question is from Mr. Karthik Gokhale. You can ask the question, sir.
Hello, sir. Karthik Gokhale this side. I wanted to ask, with the decrease in the expansion of rural areas and agricultural lands, we are closing to the wild more and more. So, how does this contact of the livestock or the humans with the wild animals affect the disease propagation?
It's
yeah.
So you're absolutely right, and it's a very emerging problem because there are multiple examples I can say, but I'll tell you one beautiful example of Gir lions got canine distemper from domestic animals. So it's really a raising concern, and it should not happen because, as we all know, one of the endemic species of India is Asiatic lion or Indian lion. So if we lose that prestigious population, and then we are they're actually stupid. So that is why it's not only the carnivore I am telling, anthrax, brucellosis, foot and mouth disease, canine distemper, and other diseases are just jumping from domestic animal because in many places, I mean, the previous that the buffer area and core area. So buffer area is allowed for grazing, fishing, and limited human interaction in biosphere reserve. So when you are actually talking about these zones and then improper or uncontrolled interaction between the wild animal and the domestic animal, there is a lot of chances and possibilities of getting infected from the domestic animal. So it has to be stopped, and then we have to make sure that the laws are really in place, and the Wildlife Protection Act very well talks about grazing and restricted grazing in some of the protected areas. So, but implementation, as you all know, is really bad in our country. So we should all take some initiative and make sure that we will report to the respective or concerned authorities anything going wrong in the forest. So that is how we can participate containing these kind of zoonosis. We can't all the time blame the government or expect the government only to do all these things. According to your IPC, every individual has got the rights, and then every citizen is responsible for your country's development. So,
yes.
Thank you, sir. The next question is from the YouTube live chat. Mr. Era, being asymptomatic has something to do with our genetics, or is it just the immune status of a person?
So as such, there was not much studies that happened on this genetic background of this disease transmission, but till based on your immune system as well as your other morbidity factors, as I already said, chronic kidney diseases, blood pressure or sugar or any other heart issues, automatically you will be under stress, and then that compromises your immunity, and you are very good candidate for the coronavirus to jump in.
Yes, sir. The next question is posed from Ms. Maria Anju. She asks if during the presentation, the lower latitude countries were told to be hotspots for zoonosis. She wants to know what the reason is, and is it because of the temperature?
Yeah, the lower latitude is actually, there are a lot of studies happening on that front, but lower latitude is just because of the temperature as one of the factor, but not exactly, because if you consider any of this pandemic, including even malaria, it is nothing to do with the temperature, but sometimes if there is any vectors involved in it, I mean, if there is any intermediate host or reservoir host involved in it, so that makes a lot of difference. So, and on top of it, again, the population and the level of mobility and our living standard also makes a kind of factor to create such kind of hotspot. So, but there are continuous studies going on that why these hotspots were specific to some area. So as of now, I can only give you few information on it.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Dr. Neetu BK, Assistant Professor from Jyotinivas College, has a question. She asks, do invertebrates or vertebrates, which are more prone to the vector, the vertebrates or the invertebrates? And if so, what is the reason?
That's a nice question, but it's a difficult question to answer. But there are 50-50% chances, because there are some zoonotics primarily depending on invertebrates, and some of the vectors are definitely vertebrate species. So it again depends on the mode of transmission, what the pathogen says. So I don't have a definite answer, ma'am. I'll definitely get into the bottom of the information, but I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Dr. Param has a question. He asks, sir, what is your opinion on the disease spreading from stray dogs to wild dogs and cattle to ungulates in the forest fringe areas?
Yeah, if you're asking about my opinion, it's just very limited, because only in certain part of our country this happens. That is also because of a little bit of unmanaged stray dog population, because there are several non-governmental organizations working on ABCs, I mean animal birth control program. So it's part of the animal birth control program that all the dogs, especially non-ownered or stray dogs, were vaccinated. So if someone is again doing their job properly and perfectly, then there is no need to worry about it. And wherever people fails, I will tell you, it's a simple concept. Wherever people fails, what you are supposed to do is always getting into trouble. So it is all because of man-made. I can give you a simple answer that as long as we are not having our own self-discipline and then respect other life and then make sure that, okay, I supposed to do this. That is how I have taken this profession, or I have taken this job, or I have taken this task. Kindly abide by it. Always ignore some of our own responsibilities. We are ended up in some problem, and then we always try to blame or find excuses to push that problem to someone else. So that is what is happening. But otherwise, I agree that the canine distemper episode in our Gir National Park is just because of stray dogs, or the dog has contracted the disease to wild animal, and some other places even the ungulates get the disease like FMD primarily and black quarter. So such diseases are definitely from the buffer zone or even the fringe of the forest where the domestic animals were allowed to graze without any proper measures or control, that transmits the disease. So I partly agree that some of the diseases are getting transmitted from the domestic counterpart to a wild animal. But if the forest is well maintained, if the animals are not allowed or were not expected to come out, then these
Aishwarya Yadav, please mute. Yes, sir. Please continue.
Yeah, I've done with my answer.
Thank you so much, sir. I'm in complete agreement with your answer. Mr. Kiran Sai asks, if we are talking about sanitation as a solution, aren't we increasing the chances of creating antibiotic resistance?
Yeah, one way it is true. One way it is true. Actually, honestly telling, being a vet in the past, using sanitizers frequently, I mean, even if it is once a day, I was always against that because it kills a lot of good bacteria from your skin. Okay, and I always tell even my wife also not to apply so much of cosmetics on your face because it kills. And washing the face frequently maybe make you pretty, but it is definitely going to be a very harmful procedure for all your microbes because fortunately or unfortunately, I have done my PhD program in gut microbes. So I always respect microbes. Okay, so your answer is very much correct, but we don't have any other choice now. It is between your life and the microbes' life. So whichever is the best, the choice is yours.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Mr. Karthik Gokhale, you can please unmute and pose your question.
Yes, my question was, can you explain some reasons or peculiarities which could make bats such perfect hosts for carrying certain virus strains?
All right. Number one is I don't have much knowledge about bats because I'm not a bat specialist. And number two, whatever I understand about bats, just because of their metabolic rate, the virus are very much choosing the host. So that's one word answer, whatever I know and I understand about the relation between the bats and the viruses. So apart from that, I may have to read a lot to answer your questions, man. I'm very sorry.
Okay. I also had one more question.
Yeah.
Can I ask?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Do you have any answer to the previous question?
No, I was searching for answer that what makes bats so special.
All right. So if you find any interesting answer, please let us know.
Yes, sure. I have your email ID.
All right.
Yeah. So my second question was, as you mentioned about the stupidity of humans,
yeah.
What limits should we have to set for ourselves even for exploring or exploiting or extrapolating to the levels of development we do.
I mean, according to my limited understanding, I'm 45-year-old. I can't talk philosophies, but still, you made me to talk now. So point number one is avoid your greediness. Please accept whatever you have. It's a very simple fact. When we always look for something else and you always compare you with somebody else to grow bigger and bigger, earn bigger and bigger, is not going to come along with you, man. It's a very short life. Everybody has to understand that. Don't secure money for 5 generations down the line. You please give them some resources, make them earn money, give them good education, make them aware about the environment and ecosystem and the biodiversity, make them connect with the nature. That is very important. Then all the time running behind money, and they always think money can make everything. Definitely not. And then that is what promoted everywhere. You click this link, you will earn money. People are jumping into click the app with no common sense. So what are you going to do with a man? One day there are a lot of philosophical talk. When the last fish was fished and then eaten by a man, and then they will realize that I can't eat my money. Right? So it's a simple build of energy, and then try to utilize that, and then learn a lot of good things. I mean, yogis are really intelligent, and they know how to deal with the life and how to deal with your body. And then now we are completely disconnected with the body. Forget about nature. We never know about our own body. First, understand that. What is wrong in that? Because of your body you are living. So, I'm very sorry that I have to give you some philosophical answer for this, because there is no limit for this. Yeah. No, definitely there is no limit for stupidity. Every day's action of yours has to be reviewed. If you review it, is it really good for the nature, or is it really good for my neighbors and friends? Also is an important factor. Don't think all the time, is it good for me, good for me, good for me. Then it's all turned to become it's benefit for me, benefit for me, benefit for me. So we all travel towards that direction, and not even realizing the fact that this is a short life, and whatever you earn, you are not going to succeed. And when you realize about the nature and connect with your body, you are about to die. What is the use of this day? Please be realistic, and then make sure that has to be forwarded or even inculcated in some kid's mind. So you should not be a bad example to anybody else. So if you try doing that, I feel that I think we can achieve something here, because you should not give up. That's my only request. Don't give up.
Yes, never. Thank you very much. It
Thank
was
you.
a amazing answer.
Thank you, sir. Very well put, that nature provides for our needs and not for our greed. With this, we will hand it over to Dr. Kavya for the vote of thanks, as we are ending this talk or this webinar in a few minutes. All the others who have questions or have any discussions with Arun sir can reach out to him. His email ID and phone number have been displayed on the shared screen. You can please reach out to him. Over to Dr. Kavya.
Thank you, Dr. Viyolla ma'am. Yes, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. Please continue.
Hello, everyone. Myself, Dr. Kavya, Assistant Professor from Department of Zoology, St. Joseph's College. First and foremost, I would extend my thanks to the organizers for this, giving me an opportunity to render the vote of thanks. My heartfelt thanks to the speaker of the session, Dr. Shah Arun, Director of the Research of the Veterinary Operations, Wildlife SOS, Bengaluru, for his insightful session on the need of the hour, that is the zoonotic diseases. Thank you very much, sir, for your patient deliberation and making us aware of this zoonotic diseases and making us very aware of this particular topic. I also thank Dr. Viyolla for moderating the session. Thank you for leading the session, madam. I extend my thanks to all the participants who were actively involved in the webinar and made this session a successful one. I also thank the beloved colleagues from the Department of Zoology for their active involvement in the webinar. Last but not the least, I thank my very own students for making this possible with their tireless efforts. Thank you, dear students. Without you, this was not possible. I also thank the Almighty for making this national webinar on the wildlife trafficking and zoonosis, jointly organized by the Natural Science Association from the Department of Zoology as well as Arusha, India, a successful one. I need to the organizers Dr. M. Jaishankar as well as Avinash for taking it up. And we also look forward for such webinars in the coming days. Thank you very much. Thank you one and all for making this possible. Thank you. Over to you, Viyolla ma'am.
I would like to add Dr. Viyolla, with your permission.
Yes, sir. Please continue.
This is again in continuation of expressing our gratitude to the speakers. We are thankful that all the three speakers, Ms. Jayanti Kalam, Mr. Jose yesterday, and Dr. Arun today, all their talks are interesting and apt to the title on wildlife trafficking and zoonosis, a topic very much required. Very much the need of the hour. I am thankful for them, thankful that they have actively participated. They spare their time to be with us and to enlighten the participants who are registered from different parts of the country. I should be thankful. This is time to thank the management, St. Joseph's College, for encouraging us and supporting us in organizing this national webinar. A big thanks to Arusha, especially Avinash, Senior Research Officer Arusha, in collaborating, bringing out this 3-day national webinar on wildlife trafficking and zoonosis. My colleagues in the department and my HOD, Professor Thomas P. Zakaria, thanks to each and everyone for making it a successful webinar. Last but not the least, the Natural Science Association and its volunteers. This would not at all have happened, and I'm underlining it, if it were not to be to the efforts of Soumya Rachel, Anukriti, Alan, Abrajit, Jeffin, Sri Lakshmi, Lochana, Kishore, Ajay. These pillars of this webinar, they have done every groundwork behind the screen. Thanks to all these volunteers, student volunteers, for making this a great success. Thanks to all the participants from different parts of the country to have actively participated in this webinar. The feedback form will be shortly issued, mailed to you. Please respond, and e-certificates will be issued to those who have attended all 3 sessions, all 3 days. So that's the condition we had put when we sent the invitation. Thank you. Over to Dr. Krishna.
Jay Shiv Kumar here. Can I?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
Viyolla?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Please continue.
Adding to everything, I would like to appreciate the participants for their very disciplined approach and their calm attitude to listening to all the 3 speakers. We should not forget this kind of a disciplined participation, the participants in these 3-day webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, from my side and for a patient listening. And I would really appreciate the entire management faculties on behalf of Wildlife SOS, and thanks to Avinash Arosha for giving me the opportunity to interact with all of you. And it was a wonderful session. Thank you so much again. All the very best to all the students.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Dr. Viyolla, they can, the participants can leave. That's how it comes to an end.
Thank you very much for your participation. You may exit this meeting, and good night.